Thank you, Ms. Mariota. Assalamu alaikum. Very pleased to be here with you. My name is Joe Phelan. I'm wearing batik today. A big thank you to Diaz and Norina, who helped find me this shirt, batik. It almost fits, but doesn't completely fit. So please give me some patience there. So my name is Joe Phelan. I'm with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Maybe my slides are going to come up. We're a global community of more than 230 large companies who, like you, come together to find solutions to the challenges that they all face around tackling the worst consequences of climate change, about reversing nature loss, and about tackling mounting inequality. What they find inside WBCSD is a community of people facing the same challenges, and also the opportunity to start to shape this agenda, which is otherwise always driving us in business. We're being driven by faster and faster new standards, new expectations, unfortunately rising temperatures, more rapid nature loss, tougher markets, more shareholder scrutiny, more investor questions, more stakeholder activism, often justified, more regulation. So as businesses, how do we start to understand and manage better these big trends that are coming to us? Can I have my slides up on the screen?
The slide, please.
Maybe if I press next, it'll come. Okay, so while that comes, I'd also like to share two things. So the first is, out of these 230 large companies, two are headquartered in Indonesia. So APP joined very recently, and the April Group have been long-standing members of WBCSD. So we're really proud of those two members. And also we have other members from around the world that have a very big footprint in Indonesia. Companies like Golden Agri Resources, companies like Jardine Matheson, companies like Vale. Let me share that with you. And then lastly, we also work with 60 global network partners around the world, business-led sustainability organizations that operate at a market level. And in Indonesia, our partner is the Indonesia Business Council for Sustainable Development, led by INDA, and we're really pleased to be associated there. Okay, how am I doing with my slides? Okay, let me try and remember.
Bisa tolong dibantu ini presentasinya?
Amazing. So, okay, we'll do it again, and you might have heard some of this before. Anyway, we're a community. It's okay. This is great. I mentioned about the Indonesia BCSD, and I also showed or I mentioned the companies that we work with around the world. This is our list of companies that we work with. Okay. So we wanted to look at the megatrends that are affecting all of our members and affecting all of you as well. And guys, if you can get the notes up on the screen, that would be amazing. Because my eyes aren't fantastic either. But so we looked at the trends that are affecting companies, and I hope that you recognise these. So the first is that there's an unprecedented drive to disclosure for different standards, more complex, more scrutiny on the quality of information being disclosed. And this is something that all businesses are dealing with. The second was that leads to questions about how robust are these frameworks and what impact are they having? Because the second trend that's been identified by the companies we work with cost of capital, is it working? Is there alignment between what businesses are doing and disclosing and what capital markets want? And then the third one is that whilst the impacts of unsustainable development are being felt more and more, the capacity needs for companies to develop talent and knowledge inside their organizations across the accounting functions, the audit, risk management, procurement, to mainstream sustainabilities, really growing. And so this sort of real need for people with knowledge and talent in the sector. I hope that you recognize at least some of these too. And so we wanted to think about these trends and take a systems approach. So rather than running after compliance with the latest standard all the time, we thought it'd be useful for businesses to understand what the system is that they're operating in for performance and accountability, especially for climate. But we know that that performance and accountability system is coming for nature and equity and circularity. So we thought it would be useful to do a systems analysis of the corporate performance and accountability system for climate, what it is, how it's working, and that would allow businesses to view more clearly the system, to understand the skills and competencies they already had, where they needed to develop capabilities, and also for organizations like GRI, WBCSD, IBCSD, ICSA, SA, what additional frameworks and tools and laws for the government as well need to be developed to really get alignment between corporate performance, accountability, and capital markets and valuation. So I'm going to share a bit on the systems analysis that we did. I hope it's useful for you in your work, and I would also love some feedback on it. I'm also just going to share a little bit about some of the perspectives from boards and directors, because the role of boards is changing too, and really, driven by sustainability going mainstream, the impact of climate, nature, inequality on business performance is broadening the scope of director responsibility, and so that it's not just governance and oversight of financial performance, but it's much more about the long-term viability of the business and integrating ESG into that long-term strategic management. And these are some of the questions that the boards of WBCSD members use to hold themselves accountable on, if they're looking broadly enough, long-term enough, if they understand how the management of the company but businesses are not on track. I think 35% of the top 2,000 companies globally have a net zero target. I think only a third of them are committed to have a net zero target. Only a third of them do have that target, and out of that third, only 18% are actually on track against their target. So we've got a big problem, and probably in your companies you can see lots of gains in renewable energy, lots of gains in energy efficiency, but if you're in medium or heavy industry, it's really hard to make the deep transitions to really decarbonize. And that is because of a misalignment between the capital markets and the targets that society needs and the goals that businesses are wanting to operationalize. So we did an analysis of the interplay between corporate performance, accountability, by which we mean disclosure, and capital market valuation and the return of capital. And we found lots of failings, but fundamentally the incentives from the capital markets are not aligned to decarbonization and sustainable business, and the information flowing from companies is not granular and specific and focused enough to allow better allocation of capital by the markets. That's the fundamental disconnect, and that's what we've done some analysis to help to address a little bit. There's many other challenges in here. For example, it's not, suddenly companies are realizing the scale of the transformation that they need to undergo. For example, having not been previously understood. There aren't tools to adequately measure Scope 3 emissions, for example, and communicate those. For example, there are many others. So if you're involved in some part of running a company, you will recognize what's on the screen. So that, all companies are run on a basically pretty similar system for corporate performance and accountability. So you establish governance, you understand your risks and opportunities, you set targets, you develop an operational plan, you measure performance, and you disclose it. And that's how companies run. And each time, each cycle, there's refinements and improvements, sometimes transformation. All that we've done is look at that system, but instead of for an aspect of traditional financial performance and accountability, we've looked at how that system is developed for climate. Okay, so when you start to look at this for climate, there are tools and frameworks that support you. So there's a 2023 OECD guidelines on governance, for example. My eyes aren't good enough, but I know that there's the COSO framework for integrating ESG into enterprise risk management, for example. On target setting, we know that there's the SBTI initiative. On a transition plan, there's the GFANZ guidelines for financial institutions or the TPT guidance for how to do a transition plan for other sectors. When we're managing performance, there's the Greenhouse Gas Protocol that was developed by WBCSD with WRI 25 years ago, and we're doing a lot of work at the moment to update it and improve it. And then in disclosure, so there's a IASB standards, a lot of new frameworks coming out of Europe having cross-border implications, GRI, an important framework, and that's the system by which you're now managing climate as a company, within your operations and developing a transition plan. And when you integrate climate into your performance and accountability system, all of a sudden, climate and sustainability moves from an add-on to an integral part of your strategy. So now the way that you do R&D, the way that you do your supply chain development, the way that you do marketing, all of that's feeding into how you're creating green products or green services and taking them to market. And then you're measuring the performance on that, and you're disclosing it to the capital markets. And that's the next part of the system. So now by integrating climate into our corporate performance and accountability system, we've now got decision useful information for companies so they can see where their transition plans are being effective, where they need to move faster. And that information can be shared with the financial markets for better capital allocation and ultimately improve valuation so that we move towards lower cost of capital for the more sustainable companies and higher valuations. Today, that's not the case. So when you put it together, what you have is a way for board directors, for people running companies, to see as a system, so move from a compliance approach to the latest standard, and see much more as a system how a business is managing its transition plan, how it's being accountable internally and externally, how it's improving performance, and how it's providing better information to the capital markets, which in turn starts to feed back in lower cost of capital and a better valuation to drive transformation, which is not currently happening. I'll just finish by highlighting some aspects for boards of directors. So at each stage of this, the corporate performance and accountability system for climate, there are roles and responsibilities for boards, and whether that's in sets of questions to ask the management or questions to ask as a board. And there's increasing requirements. So CSRDD out of the EU, but affecting businesses with operations there and becoming more of a standard, requires boards of directors to align their business with low carbon scenarios, for example. And also there's a new directive around well, I think ISSB requires board directors to be responsible for ESG data and its reasonable assurance in the same way they are for financial data. Okay, I'm just going to end by sharing here. This is a guide to the corporate performance and accountability system for climate. You can download it here, and in the guide there's a set of questions that you can ask of your business to see where you're strong in managing this system and where you need to build capabilities so that you can identify and prioritize your next steps. All right, I will end there. Please get in touch today, but also on email if you have questions about this or any other part of our work. Thank you.